NASCAR may be known for operating the best stock car racing, but it's not without flaws, as drivers sometimes fly off the tracks, literally getting severely injured. Even though NASCAR put several safety measures in place to guard against them, accidents are still common on these tracks. Here are 5 times when NASCAR cars went flying. Number 5. Elliott Sadler and Pocono Raceway. Here's the NASCAR crash that got everyone holding their hearts in their hands. Elliott Sadler's car didn't just fly into the unprotected wall, the engine separated from the vehicle completely. The 2.5-mile Pocono Speedway is known for dull racing, and the drivers tend to underestimate it. But that wasn't the case with Elliott. On September 2010, Elliott Sadler was racing on the Pocono Raceway alongside Kurt Busch when the track failed him and sent him crashing into the wall. The estimated G-forces were the strongest ever recorded in an automobile collision, and Sadler's car went from 160 miles per hour to around 20 miles per hour in a 3-foot braking distance. Debris from both crashes required a 30-minute red flag for cleanup. In a statement, while trying to explain how the crash happened, Sadler said someone had run into them from behind, then turned them inside the wet grass, making the cars collide. He further said it was a hard hit, and though he escaped without serious injury, he experienced soreness in his chest and stomach. After the incident, Sadler appreciated the people who rushed to rescue him. He also thanked the manufacturers of the car he raced in. According to him, both contributed to his safety story. Number 4. Carlos Pardo in Mexico. September. June 14, 2009 was not a good day for Carlos and NASCAR as a whole. The 33-year-old driver was not lucky at all. Before his death, Carlos Pardo was a top racer and the most appreciated. He won 10 times out of the 74 NASCAR Mexico Corona Series he participated in, including a championship in 2004. He appeared in the nationwide series in 2006 for Telcel Motorola 200 at Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. Interestingly, Pardo didn't just show up, he finished in the 42nd position. It all happened in the 4th round of the 2009 NASCAR Corona Series held in Puebla, Mexico. Carlos Pardo was battling for the lead against Jorge Guedes and Rafael Martinez. But as he approached the finish line, his car skidded on the left side and struck squarely against the containment wall. The car was completely destroyed. The rescue team immediately transported him in a helicopter to a hospital nearby for quick treatment. Unfortunately, Pardo didn't survive the crash because he died before they reached the hospital. Since he was already on the finishing line and was leading, he was pronounced the winner. Pardo never got a chance to celebrate his 10th win in the NASCAR Mexico Series. Very sad indeed. Number 3. Jeff Gordon in Vegas. Imagine walking away unscratched from a crash that made the car fly off the road, hit a wall, leaving the radiator steaming on the track and tearing the car in two. Jeff Gordon was indeed lucky. Though he managed to escape unhurt, Gordon said that was the most brutal hit he'd experienced as a driver in NASCAR racing. On March 2, 2008, Jeff Gordon competed in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, but little did he know his sleek car would come out of that race as a wreck. Before the accident, Gordon had qualified for the race with 4th position in the 15th place with 221 points. He had also won with a speed of 181.238 miles per hour. Mark Kenseth was driving at high speeds in an attempt to overtake the Chevrolet driven by Dale Earnhardt during the race. All while Gordon was behind him. Unexpectedly, Earnhardt spun his tire, giving Gordon and Kenseth room to overtake him. But as Kenseth overtook Earnhardt, the disaster happened. He collided with Gordon's Chevrolet, sending him into the wall within split seconds. While Kenseth scaled through the collision, Gordon wasn't so lucky. He hit the wall badly, causing his car's radiator to break away from the chassis. He suffered a sore stomach, severe back pain, and a numb elbow. Though Gordon claimed he was responsible for the collision between himself and Kenseth, he blamed the cause of the crash on the lack of a safer barrier, which Las Vegas Motor Speedway failed to implement. He believed the crash wouldn't have happened if the Speedway owners had implemented the necessary safety measures. Further expressed his disappointment, Gordon said the Speedway should ensure they fix their safety barrier to prevent such an incident from ever happening again. Gordon also said that the hit was the hardest he'd ever experienced. After receiving such a complaint, Las Vegas Motor Speedway officials announced they would install the safer barrier along the wall. Even with that, Gordon was still unsatisfied because though they installed the safer barrier, the officials did not redesign the opening so that a car would not reach the border. However, he thanked the HANS device for saving his life during that crash. Gordon felt the incident wasn't suitable for public view, so he restricted the public release of the footage. Number 2. Dale Earnhardt in Daytona. The fearless intimidator in his Chevrolet Monte Carlo at the last lap of Daytona 500. His own team's car, driven by good friend Michael Waltrip and his son Dale Earnhardt Jr., finished 1 and 2 on the day that should have been filled with great joy. But Dale was gone. NASCAR race killed another. The fans who watched the race said the crash wasn't even fierce. Of course, there have been a series of more brutal hits in NASCAR history. What surprised people so much was how Dale Earnhardt's black Chevrolet collided with the wall, paused, and then sent back the impact into the driver's body. The American stock car racer suffered a skull fracture during the Daytona Speedway crash in the final lap of the Daytona 500. Though the crash's impact wasn't so brutal, he didn't survive it. Dale Earnhardt's crash was the most shocking in history of NASCAR racing. Fans of Dale Earnhardt were so grief-stricken and poured out millions of tributes. Some even went as far as selling merchandise with his name. In NASCAR history, they haven't recorded any deaths caused by a minor crash, so Earnhardt's incident shocked all. Truly, the sport crew had lost a legend. With the outburst of emotion caused by Earnhardt's death, it created a significant impact by provoking a radical change in NASCAR's attitude when it comes to the driver's safety. Suddenly, head and neck support became necessary, and they installed steel and foam energy reduction barriers. They also developed tracks and accelerated the car tomorrow. Number 1. 200 Daytona 250. In February 2000, Bodine, the 1986 Daytona 500 champion, returned to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series race held at Daytona International Speedway. The race was the first for NASCAR trucks on the high-banked, high-speed oval, and NASCAR officials debated all week about whether to require carburetor restrictor plates to slow the vehicles, which were running at about 185 miles per hour at the time of the crash. 3 trucks were running side by side when the unfortunate happened. The truck in the inner lane collided with the truck in the center lane, while the truck ahead got bumped from behind and spun in front of Bodine, racing in the high groove. Bodine's vehicle sped directly into the heavy cables along the 2.5-mile speedway, broke through the fence to attack the spectators, then bounced back and started rolling like a fireball. Soon the car was seen repeatedly tumbling, burning, and sending out black smoke. Worst of all is that this crash didn't just involve only Bodine, it affected 12 other vehicles and the 9 spectators that sat on the front stretch of the 2.5-mile speedway. The accident left the truck so shattered that everyone had their hands in their mouth, believing there was no way Bodine could survive it. 3 of the spectators that were injured in that incident had to undergo surgery. 2 suffered broken arms, while the other had facial lacerations and a fractured sinus. Such pain within a few seconds of a crash. 3 other spectators were treated for the debris inside their eyes. Luckily for 3 others, theirs were just a minor scratch that didn't need serious medical attention. In a statement, Bodine said, "I've never had such a wreck like that in my life. I was fully aware of the trouble down inside me. I saw the other cars coming up to me, and then I just went on a wild ride. My concerns are with the injured fans, and I wish them all the best." When asked about the incident, Daytona International Speedway president John Graham said, "We believe our system is adequate. When something like this happens, we always do our best to save the drivers, and today, our team tried their best." Funny enough, the race didn't end despite this deadly crash. The organizers only halted it for 2 hours and 23 minutes for the fence to be fixed and the injured to be taken out for medical care. After the set time, the race continued, and Mike Wallace won on the last lap. NASCAR racing has had its fair share of fun, crazy stunting, and powerful racing, but things turn serious when the safety of the drivers is put into question. The NASCAR competition has witnessed several fatalities, some of which led to drivers' deaths. Thankfully, NASCAR has learned the lesson, and safety in the sport has evolved through the decades.